This is Terror House Radio with Matt Forney and Bryden Proctor.
Welcome to Terror House Radio, episode number 67. I'm Matt Forney, your charming and loquacious host, and the founder and editor-in-chief of Terror House Press. With me, as always, is my co-host and producer, the world's only comedian, Bryden Proctor.
Hey, buddy. What's going on?
Lovely. We didn't do a show last week because my internet didn't work. And now it works. I have a 100 Mbps connection, so we shouldn't have any issues that aren't caused by my ancient computer.
Yeah, he'll just be your poor radio personality that drags the show down.
Yeah, you should have seen the last show. He decided to do he dressed up like me with the bald cap that he
Actually,
couldn't paint.
I watched that. Yeah, I did watch that. That was my.
So our guest for this program is K.H. Mezek, author.
Mezek.
God, I'm terrible at pronunciation. Absolutely horrific. My mom blamed it on the fact that I never did phonics because I was such an advanced reader. She may have been just being nice. A nice way of telling me I was an idiot.
You had a nice mother. Well, that's good.
But yeah.
She's really nice. Her and I are real close.
KH is the author of our next book, Luminaria, Tales of Earth and Oran, Love and Revenge, which will be out Friday. KH, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yes. Before I say anything, sir. Well, everyone who comes on the show enjoys it, except Bryden.
Yeah.
But he keeps coming back.
Oh, he's a glutton for punishment.
It's a contract thing. I mean, the FBI was like, I was like, oh, it's going to be great. And then they assigned me to fucking Terror House. So what are you going to do?
Well, you have to follow your orders, right?
I liked the CNN layout that we had there for a second. That one was kind of scary looking, honestly.
That took me back a bit.
Yeah, I should probably get the overlay redesigned. It's not really suited for a three-person conversation. But anyway, speaking of which, if you have questions for KH, Bryden, or myself, which we will read later on the show, send a Streamlabs tip to streamlabs.com/terrorhousemagazine. The URL is right there. It's in the description. It's also periodically posted by a bot in the chat, so you will be reminded of that. I should remind all of you that Bryden is paid out of those tips. So if you don't want him to be miserable and starving, send money. Send money and ask questions.
This beer was $13 for 6 of them, man. I mean, I'm just digging a hole here.
But anyway, KH, I always start off every first-time interviewer by letting them, talk about themselves in their own words. I don't like to put words in people's mouths. So for the people in the audience who don't know who you are, could you just give a brief overview of yourself and your work, that kind of thing?
Sure. Okay. Well, wow. That's a big subject because I've lived a few years on this planet. So, but I was born in Los Angeles. Let's see. And then one of the most telling things that influenced my life was when I was 10 years old. My father, who was a businessman, heard the voice of God telling him to become a writer. And so we all packed up, because of course he obeyed the voice of God, and we started traveling around the world. And that experience greatly influenced my life. And so, we went all kinds of places, had all kinds of adventures, like escaped out of Egypt right before the 6-Day War, smuggled Bibles into Romania, and did all kinds of crazy things. Lived in a 17th century castle in Switzerland. And obviously, these things influenced my life, and I had a big imagination. So from a young age, I really wanted to write, and I was also an artist. I just was very passionate about drawing. And although I didn't agree with my father's very, very conservative views, we clashed a lot. I respected him for what he did. And then over the years, that influenced me to have a lot of courage and strength in to pursue what I believed that I wanted to do in my life. So I did a bunch of stuff after that we can talk about, but I think that's what influenced me the most, and started writing Luminaria when I was actually years ago, had the idea sitting in a cafe called Le Relais Basque in London. And I transported that into the book into Hollywood. So that's just a little bit to start with.
Well, that's an interesting anecdote, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name. But yeah,
Yes. That's French, by the way.
I actually used to be semi-fluent in French. I took it in college, and then I lost it all, like everything I do. The only language I can sort of speak is Spanish, because I'm guessing because I learned it early enough that it just got pressed into my skull.
I've got this. Watch. Matt Forney.
That Forney. Oui. Very good.
That is actually
It's
the correct.
simple.
That is actually an acceptable pronunciation in French. My name is French.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard. I don't remember. I'm not good with languages at all. You know, when I was a kid, I had to go to the village school in Switzerland. It was French. And every time I opened my mouth, the kids just laughed at me. They thought I sounded really funny. So I just stopped talking, basically. So it didn't do me a lot of good.
Well, they sounded funny, too, because every time they laughed, they went,
sounded
oh, ho, 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 you know.
They sounded funny, too. But I was in the minority, you understand? They were a vast majority. So their laughter was much louder than mine. Like mine. So.
But yeah, that's that's a pretty unique upbringing, to put it mildly. Traveling around the world at a relatively young age, and I actually did read the story about you wrote on your Substack about the smuggling Bibles of the communist Romania moment. I mean, wow! In terms of like the danger and whatnot.
Yeah, it was that my parents, and particularly my father, would do something like that, put us in that type of danger, but just believing so strongly that it was, God's will and that we should do this. And the whole outcome of it was quite disappointing in the end, considering that the person we were supposed to bring the Bibles to had been gotten out of the country for $7,000 before we arrived. So we went through all this journey to get these Bibles, which you could be put in prison for at that time, smuggling them. And then we didn't have the person to give them to at the end. And I was like, well, why would God do that? See, that made me wonder.
That was going to be my question. What was what did the voice say to your dad, supposedly, other than be a writer? Was he like, there's a guy named what? I don't know. All Romania is just filled with vampires. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that was, when we left on our journey, we had no plan. These things happened organically. So we met this guy in his name is Brother Andrew. He sold millions of books. He was called God's Smuggler. And we met him in Denmark on our travels, and he smuggled Bibles. And so my dad thought, that's a great idea. We're going to smuggle Bibles, so that's what we did. So things like that would happen along our journey, unexpected things like that. But I have to say that the one thing I have to say is that the Bibles were in a suitcase, and every time we crossed a border, the guards would open literally every single suitcase except for that suitcase. I mean, that did happen. They would literally do things like they ripped out the lining of my mom's purse. They would look in the tires. I don't know what they were looking for, but this Bibles would happen. Yeah, they were looking for Bibles in the line. They would unscrew the paneling. They were looking for a tiny person that we were smuggling out. I don't know.
They would unscrew the paneling on inside the walls of the car.
Yeah, all kinds of things, crazy stuff. But it made one of the things that really nowadays when people don't. In the United States, they're saying they want this kind of, they don't realize what they're talking about. I lived through these types of experiences. I lived in a communist country in Yugoslavia, and I can really see the signs in our country of what's happening now. And I really hope that people wake up and realize what's going on, basically.
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot from people. I lived in the former Eastern Bloc for nearly 4 years, to put it about exactly, from 2017 to 2011. You get that a lot from people there. I lived in Hungary for 2 years, and the ones who know about American politics and aren't liberals are like, this happened here. Like, not exactly, but stuff like this happened here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm glad I have the freedom to speak, and I think that that's really important. I'm just very passionate about that freedom of speech for everyone. Really, pretty much everyone. I mean, obviously, unless they're promoting some sort of horrible violence. And
well, that's what the government's saying that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you Your
judge resistance is violence.
Resistance is violence. Yeah.
You don't. See, I'm pretty libertarian. Look, people can say terrible things as long as they don't do them. I don't care what people say.
Yeah.
It's when you do the things, and saying that something promotes violence completely takes away this idea that people can hear information and not just immediately go do it. So, yeah, that people get to say all kinds of stupid things, even things about me that I don't like or agree with or I think are completely wrong, but they still should be able to say it. It's when you start doing that it matters,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, I think, and I mean, it's takes all the fun. I mean, it's entertaining. Like, it's entertaining to, I mean, the world would be a very boring place if there was just one voice, it would be a very, very boring place. So
no, if that one voice was me, then I get to talk to everybody. That would be great.
I think you would get bored after a while. Even you. I think you would.
You don't know, Bryden.
Yeah, I've done 2 24-hour live streams before. I could talk forever. There just might be lulls of silence while I'm falling asleep in my chair.
And near the end, it might get a little manic because he's completely sleep deprived.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it has provided some of the more entertaining moments on this show. Remember when you, Bryden, yelled at me for saying the money isn't real for about a year and a half ago? Mm-hmm. Which is funny because we were closing the show down, and you just made a comment about free money doesn't exist, and I was just poking fun at you.
No, you're a bad person, but I'm really interested about this trip, though. Like, how old were you when you were like 10? You said?
Yeah, don't do the math. Yeah, I was 10.
And what did you think at the time? Were you like, Dad's crazy? Or were you like, I guess I'll go along with it?
Well, at the time, we all sort of like, he was the leader of the family, I was pretty excited, actually, to take off on an airplane and, go somewhere. And my mom was pretty terrified at the time. I don't know that she supported my dad. But I thought it was pretty interesting. The thing is that as the journey went, it was like a little over a year. We did it. It wasn't the only time that we did that after that. And then, but when we got back, when I tried to share I was very excited to tell my friends, at school and everything. And I realized that nobody cared. They just didn't care. And plus, when I tried to say, I lived in a castle, which I thought would impress them, they just refused to believe it was even true. So
castles don't exist. Those are only in Disney movies.
Or, you're just trying to be so snooty and you're like, or, you're trying to be different, and so you have to and then I just realized I shouldn't really talk about this, because I'm just setting myself up to be hated by everybody. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Americans will, a lot of people in general just assume that you have to be rich to travel, like that, which is not true at all because, I've done it and, I'm not exactly rich, as you can see by the luxurious surroundings that in my office, the supernova happening behind me.
No, I know. And I've been accused, I've been accused of so many things. Like, I'm a pasty-faced, plague-ridden spreader of disease for daring, to live in Egypt during the pandemic, or daring to teach girls boxing in Egypt, which I did. I started the first boxing club for girls. Hey, so I'm looking at the comments, and somebody comments, "Why is a woman here?"
Oh yeah, no, that'll happen.
Just ignore those.
Well,
that's why I'm wearing this shirt today.
Not boxing. See, I was gonna tell Matt. I'm like, wait. Hold on a second. A woman's here?
And exactly. But I don't think you want to try that with me.
No, probably not.
Bryden, I know what you look like below the waist. Okay, you've got.
Oh wow! So you've been looking at my dick? You've been looking at my dick, Matt?
Oh wait, I thought he was talking about me.
Nah. Trust me, I don't think Bryden will be able.
Good old peeping Matt.
To you.
Good old peeping Matt, hanging outside of windows, watching me get out of the shower.
Okay, this is what I was waiting for.
Oh, yeah, this will happen. Yeah, I wouldn't pay attention to any of the people in the chat. They, it's fine. There's not many of them there, so it doesn't really matter.
And they aren't sending money, so their opinions don't matter.
Okay, that's well. Then we can just disdain them.
But yeah, Phil. I mean, that's pretty harsh. I mean, filthy, plague-ridden, etc. I mean, the worst thing I got called in Europe was I was in Poland.
No, wait a minute. I got called this by Americans, by woke, liberals who were calling me that. These weren't Egyptians calling me that. They wouldn't know that language. They wouldn't know. They called me other things. This was from the other side.
How did Egypt handle, because I didn't pay attention to them. How did Egypt handle the whole Corona deal? Did they were like, nobody can go to the pyramids, or like what happened?
Well, that was really interesting because I was there when the whole thing started. And actually, I was in Luxor, Egypt, in these villages living there. And
I've been to that hotel in Vegas.
Yeah, sorry. That's not where I was. I was like a few miles from there. A whole nother experience. But when it started, the funny thing is I was looking at the news and watching everything happening back in the United States and seeing it very clearly, like what is going on? Like people are just accepting all this stupidity, because I could see it from the outside. I mean, I was a little bit scared in the beginning. I think everybody was, because you didn't really know what it was. But then, I began to realize like everybody's hearing the exact same thing on the news. This is not like, this is just stupid. And in the meantime, I saw the all of the very virtuous people, post locked down in their houses and how brave they were to do that. Meanwhile, being served their, putting pictures on Facebook of their sushi, that they had got delivered to their home by the person that was actually out there in the field, on the battlefield, bringing them their food, so they could stay hidden in their house. Meanwhile, in these villages, everybody's just living their life. And Luxor was the epicenter of the pandemic there, because there was this cruise ship that came there that was infected. So it was, the epicenter of Egypt. But, when you're in a village, and nobody has a luxury of locking down. There's a whole world out there of people that don't have the luxury of doing this, and they just continue living their regular lives. So,
there's a shocking number of people who aren't digital nomads and can't work from home, which is something that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah. So I just saw that it was just, I mean, I don't deny that there's this illness and all of that, and that it's serious, but that that the hysteria about it, it obviously just used for political reasons. So
well, we disagree on we agree on most of that, on most of what you just said. I can't say what I really think on YouTube, but it's heavily implied what I think. What about the mask thing there, though? Were they like doing the whole mask thing?
That's a funny thing. No, because who's going to wear it? I mean, they didn't understand that. All these, and they're living in villages, so. And they've got their grandmother, in these cultures, as you would know, Matt, the grandmother, the grandfather, they live in the house. Everybody lives together. You can't send them away somewhere, or it's not like, where they just put everybody in old folks' homes.
There's no such thing as social distancing when you've got like three generations under one roof.
Exactly. And nobody was, and in fact, there were no masks, and nobody could afford to buy those masks anyways. And when they did become available, nobody was wearing them. But I do remember, before I finally made it out of the country, going to buy some masks for the plane, and in this like sports shop in Luxor on the West Bank, and the guy. Finally, the people working there had to wear these masks. So the man that was working in the store was wearing a mask. And I said to him, because this is how I am, I said, so how do you feel wearing something covering your face just like your women do? That's what I said to him. And, and he goes, and of course he goes, this is our culture. This is what we do. This is how we do. And I said, yeah, but now you're doing it, aren't you? And, he didn't like that very much. But that's the, that was kind of a funny thing that I saw, that the men started having to wear these things.
What was it like getting your tongue reattached then after they cut it out for what you said?
I had some protection while I was there. I helped a woman escape there. A woman, she was trying to sell her villa while I was there. So I actually helped her. I stood up for her. Because foreign women there aren't allowed, like, they're taken advantage of by the men there. They marry the men there, the men marry them, and then they just bleed them dry for everything that they have. And that's a big, dark, dirty secret. Yeah, okay.
So what you're saying is that Egypt is kind of for women what Thailand is for men?
Exactly, it is. Wow. The only difference is that the women don't take ownership of what they're doing. They get literally taken advantage of, and this drove me crazy because, and that's like takes me to my book, which I think a lot of guys are reading my book, which I find interesting. They're all female characters, they're all, which in my book, each chapter is a female character. Because I get tired of, honestly, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this from women, but I really get tired of women whining all the time and complaining about their lot or their position. Just stand up for yourself. That's what I've learned how to do in my life. And so I was standing up for this woman in Egypt because all the men felt that it was their right to take her villa, and that she didn't deserve to sell it or earn any or get any money for it, even though she'd paid for it. And I can't remember why I was telling the story. Why was I telling that story? What did you ask me?
About the guy you said to the mass thing about is where it originally started, and then she was selling a villa, and then we were talking about dudes rocking over there. Who,
the dudes are, but they're because they do it all with and they are really the prostitutes. I mean, because they're the ones taking the money, but they don't accept that. You see, they don't understand that they're the prostitutes. They think that the women are all the prostitutes. So I did stand up for this one woman, and this is what I wanted to say. At the moment when, like, her villa, the neighbor who decided that it belonged to him, there was one day where all the men from his village just started gathering outside the house, like, to intimidate her. I was staying there with her at that time. And so these are the situations I get to in my life. Okay. So they start gathering outside the door. They're roaming around, and we're like, what's going on out there? She has this big, like, iron gate. You can see through the gate and walls, and beautiful villa. This is like an amazing, she's an artist. She's a fantastic person, very strong person too, because they kept dragging her out to the police station in the middle of the night. All kinds of things happened. I've written about it in my Substack stories. So just stick to this one adventure. So finally she gets a call from the real estate guy, who's like the mafioso guy of West Bank, Luxor, saying they're going to attack and take your villa in the middle of the night. So I'm like, okay, let's find some weapons, like what can we...
Star-faced it? You Tony Montana the fucking place? That fucking rules.
I'm gonna, nobody's doing that to me, So, but then so then she, we tried to call, the foreign women, and nobody would talk. It was like, oh, nobody knew us. Suddenly nobody knew us. Nobody wanted to talk to us anymore. They're all, of course you can't call the police. That would be a bad idea. So then she calls this one guy that can help her, that she thinks can help her, and he comes this is a guy that was trying to marry her anyway, so he thought, okay, I can get in good with her. So he's driving over in his car, and the neighbor guys there's like 20 men in the street, and they beat him off with sticks, and I said, okay, this is very serious. There's something bad's going to happen here. So at that point, I'm like, I'm not just going to sit here, be a sitting duck. So I said, okay, I'm going down to the gate. I'm going to talk to them. And so I go down to the gate. I'll never forget that moment. And 20 guys out there, like angry wolves, wandering around. And I stand there, and they all went quiet. And they all looked at me like, what the hell is she doing? And then I said, who's in charge here? And the neighbor guy goes, me. And he comes, and I said, come here. And he comes up to the gate, and I said, and And I have to tell you, this is the first time I've ever done this in my life. Well, in Egypt, I said, in all my travels, this is the first time I've done this. I'm an American citizen. And I have a letter ready to go to the American embassy. And if you do anything to me, and I have somebody at the Los Angeles Times, I have a lawyer, and I said, if anything happens to me, everybody in the whole world's going to know about you. And they immediately said, "Oh no, we love America, we love you, we love you. We never do anything to harm you. Really, really, we never do anything to harm you." And so I ended up inviting him in and being like the negotiator between this woman and this Egypt and this guy who wanted to steal her house. Eventually, he sold it to her. I mean, she sold it to him and she got her money. And we left. Barely made it out of the country. They were still trying to make her go to jail. But the thing that I want to relate that to what's happening in Afghanistan, because I can guarantee you, if I was standing at that gate today and I said that I'm an American citizen, they would laugh at my face and they would tear me apart.
Yep.
That's the difference. And whether I learned really, the difference. Like, people might not like it, but this is the reality of the world we live in. You have to be strong. You have to be tough. You have to stand up. So, yeah. So that's my story about that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation. I mean, Brian and I joked about it like 2 episodes ago, but it is awful. Like, all these American citizens just getting left behind. What is basically a kill list that was given to the Taliban by the
Unbelievable.
It's a kill list. Okay, that term gets thrown around a lot when people are talking about Andy No. Oh, he makes a kill list for Adamwaffen. No, giving a list of like American citizens and like people who worked with the regime that the Taliban just overthrew to the Taliban, that's a kill list. Oh, they're probably just going to go through the list, just X and kill some people, arrest some others, harass them. It's awful.
It's unbelievable. It is as if this administration has done everything they can to do the opposite of what they should do in every instance. Just like create chaos. Let's just create chaos in the entire world.
To be fair, the State Department has never really cared that much about Americans abroad.
That's true.
Getting any kind of service out of an embassy is virtually impossible. Like voting, you can go vote at the embassy. That takes forever. And of course, thanks to the pandemic, a lot of embassies are either outright closed, they're not doing regular, services and whatnot. I don't know if you follow, say, like Nomad Capitalist, guy who does videos about, international business. There's people who want to renounce their U.S. citizenship, because for tax reasons, and they can't do it because embassies are closed, which is, I think, deliberate.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
One of my friends in Zimbabwe actually thinks like the border. I think the border with Canada was finally reopened, sort of partially. I think the Mexican border is still closed. He thought the reason they were doing that was to prevent capital flight because there's going to be some kind of austerity program being forced through by the federal government. Like, everyone's happy about the child tax credit. Oh, we're getting money to just sit around and not work. That's all going to end. They're going to start slashing Social Security, Medicare, all that. And when that's happened in places like Argentina, people head for the exits with their money. One of my Twitter mutuals, a friend of Terrahouse, Lady Astor on Twitter, she's Argentine, and she wrote about how when Argentina had a financial collapse back in the early aughts, she and her then fiance, they left the country to Spain, and she had her life savings taped inside her bra because at the time it was illegal to bring money out of the country.
Crazy.
The worst thing about that is that's the worst kind of deceit, pretending to have big tits. I mean, yeah, all laws aside, we catch you at the border pretending to be a big titty broad. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I don't think I could get away with that myself. So, to be honest.
No, that's great. I mean, it's good that you're here because, I don't know, I get a little bit of the people mad at me. Not too many because people are used to it by now. But I'm way happier if we would have just left 2,500 troops over in Afghanistan forever than deal with an influx of refugees and all of this. It does seem like it's on purpose. The reason I think that all of this is happening on purpose, it's either one, as Matt has clued me into, all of the different places in the executive branch are just operating independently and there's no core leadership, or I think it's the Great Reset. I think it is. I think that's what it is. The Great Reset. That's what I think it is.
Why can't it be both? Why can't it be all of them working autonomously towards the Great Reset? Like a bunch of Muslims actually at Hajj, just stampeding.
Yep, I think I agree with you. I absolutely agree, and so that makes everything boring here, right? Because I agree with you. I can't argue with you at all. I wish I could say something. No, that's wrong. I'm going to tell you a different point of view, but no, you're absolutely right.
I think we got the arguing out of our systems when we had Mike Cannon on the show.
Oh, God.
Okay.
If you want to argue, you could, defend communism or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I write. I think it's also very interesting times, and actually, I don't know. Like, I'm in two minds about it all anyway. Like this whole, transhumanism and all that, and that comes into what I'm writing about in Luminaria to a certain extent. But I think that maybe there's no way to stop this. I mean, maybe this is. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the day, it 1,000 years from now will actually be in progress. I mean, who knows? And maybe other, we don't know that right now. We don't know. What's progress?
Progress is not always good. You can progress a car off a cliff.
That's true.
There's no defending transhumanism.
No, I'm not defending it because I honestly, it's like, God forbid, I don't know. Like, I don't know what. I think we're like, when you're in the middle of something, a huge, big transition, it's very hard to see. So I do try to think about it a lot and figure out what's going on. I mean, I'm against all of the next piece I write on Substack is going to be about, and I've written a couple pieces about it, but what's going on our planet is so crazy. And then at the same time, you realize that in 2028, they're going to open the first hotel in space. It's crazy. So who's going to be going to that hotel? Who's going to be going to that hotel?
Dissenters. Every sci-fi book says dissenters. It's not going to be a hotel. It's a camp.
No, this is going to, okay, well, maybe. So I didn't think of it from that point of view. I think we already have the camps being built here and nobody's doing anything about it.
It's going to be like StarCraft. They're just going to eject all the criminals to some far end of the solar system.
Yeah.
In a way that would kind of rule, though. It's like you get to go to space. No chance do I have to go to space. Jeff Bezos, I swear, he's going up there and he's like, I don't think I want to buy one. It's all Elon Musk. Everybody thinks he's a good guy. I'm telling you, he's not.
No, these are bad guys. Yeah. Except I still want to go to space. I want to go to space too. If there's anything I could do, like if there's the one thing that they could get me to compromise my soul, maybe if they said, you want to go to space, that would be a hard one for me, because I'd still say no, but
yeah. You ever play the Doom games? I mean, you go up there and then all of a sudden there's, demons on Mars and shit. I don't know. I'm not so clear that space even fucking exists. I've been reading too many things on the internet and people say it doesn't, so it may not.
Well,
Brian, you're a flat earther now?
No, I think the Earth might be round, but space just may be fake.
Think. I have to think about that one for a minute. Okay. I'm gonna stay awake tonight thinking about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into that. Flat earther among conspiracy theorists, flat earthers are, to be frank, the lowest IQ and the most deranged.
But I mean, do they really exist? I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked.
There's whole websites that get it dedicated.
I mean, are they doing this just for fun, just to flip everybody out?
People
how can they?
Schizophrenia is real, and it's rampant throughout the country.
I ran across one flat Earth website that had like a 50 bullet point list of why the Earth is flat, and one of the reasons was math. One of the reasons was math is Illuminati. I'm not making that up.
It is true.
Wow.
Math is Illuminati.
Blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, the only sort of convincing evidence I could find was a video of like there's some amateurs who launched a rocket in Antarctica. Was it Antarctica? It was somewhere a few years back, and you can watch the video. There's a camera attached to it. It gets out of Earth into space, and then it hits something invisible and bounces back. Because according to the flat earthers, like, you know, the Earth is flat. And it's surrounded by a dome called the firmament. And in the Bible, that's what separates heaven from earth.
Right, the firmament. I do know all these things with my upbringing. I do know it all.
You'll give yourself schizophrenia reading too deeply into it, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you know, that's like the Stephen King novel. What was that, Under the Dome, where he had like that. You know, he wrote that thing like and it's just like this giant person, like everybody's on Earth, and he just puts this jar down on this town, just like because we're like ants to obviously, and then everybody inside the dome, all they know is that they're suddenly inside this dome and they can't get out because.
If I recall correctly, that was also the plot of the Simpsons movie.
It's not. It was not an original idea. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
For Stephen King.
The only Stephen King novel I can remember is The Shining because of the movie, and The Langoliers because of the miniseries.
But what about? I mean, his best. They never made any video thing of it, but in my opinion, his best short story, The Joust, or The Joust. Is that what it was? The Joust, yeah, the one where it's like you can travel really quickly, like instantaneously, but they have to put you to sleep, and if you stay awake through it. Well, this guy's kid does, and stays awake and comes out and like tears his eyes out and all of this because apparently you are just alive for so long, like an infinite amount of years. And he gets out and he's like, it's longer than you think. It's longer than you think. And he tears his eyes out and all of that. It's actually pretty good, but Stephen King
actually I mean, you know, he's got a formula that he repeats, but I do feel like the appeal for his books are, you know, like the really old style fairy tales or whatever, you know, there's always like a moral or something, and they're really dark. I mean, those original fairy tales were not, you know, they were not the Disneyland Little Mermaid story, you know? So, yeah, so I think that actually, you know, that appeals to people.
I like Stephen King. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with Stephen King, but you know, like my mom turned me on to Stephen King when I was a kid. I fucking love Stephen King. But I also don't feel bad going, he's a fucking hack, you know, because it's like, but you can't write 80,000 books. And
well, I mean, does he write them all himself anyways now? I don't know.
That's a fucking conspiracy I'd like to get into. I never even thought of that.
How many authors of these famous authors really aren't writing their books?
It's like how Tom Clancy was outsourcing his books before he died, so.
Well, he just is a video game now. I mean, nobody got what Red October or Hunt for Red October, Rainbow Six, and then it's just all video games.
The only reason people under the age of like 40 know who Tom Clancy is because of Splinter Cell.
Yeah, and Rainbow Six games. The Rainbow Six games were incredible.
They're still making those, right? I mean, there hasn't been a Splinter Cell entry in years.
Nope, it's a shame. Speaking of books, though, we should probably hear about your book, given that that's why you're here.
Perfect segue, yeah. And but yes, Luminaria is out on Friday. You want to talk about the book, Cage?
Sure. Yeah. So this is a book that, and you know, it's true. I read that one. Like, there's a review that says it really defies genres, and I think it does. Like, I can't really figure out what genre my book fits into. But when I wrote it originally, I said like I used to go to this cafe in a dark period of my life when I was living in London, between London and Yugoslavia. And this cafe was called Le Relais Basque. And I just basically transported it to Hollywood for this book. But that's where I actually started getting the idea for this book. And I had the idea that there was these 10 women with these interconnected stories, and they were just out to get this one guy. The most famous science fiction writer in the whole entire world, this really obnoxious, narcissistic guy. But that actually, I He said something like, exactly. Oh, how did you make that connection so quickly? But and he's but I kind of like him too. I like all the characters. I got kind of attached to all the characters in this book, and each one has a reason for hating this guy and wanting revenge. And so by the end, it all comes together. But he's basically through sort of happenstance, he found this way to this other world called Oron, and the connection between, like, I remember when I first learned about, like, I was always interested in Fireflies and Luciferin and Luciferus, and I thought it was really interesting that they actually used Fireflies to find a life in outer space, and that was my original connection to that, not ever knowing that there would be this big thing about this controversy about it with Luciferus and mRNA vaccines and all of that, so I was writing this before that stuff ever happened, and basically these are genetically. Yes, you have a question for me?
Yes, I do. What the fuck is all of that? Luciferus, Luciferius?
Luciferus and Luciferin are the chemicals in Firefly. Like, you see that Firefly there on that beautiful illustration, which I love so much. And it's not even mine.
Cover art by Matt Lawrence. Go follow him on Twitter, Matt Lawrence Art.
Yeah, I love it. I was just so impressed with that from one artist to another. But so that's how they light there. And I'm not a scientist or anything like that. I'm just fascinated by all of that. And it can actually, it can lead you. I mean, I'm not saying it correctly, but what captured my imagination was that these chemicals can find things or lead you places. So my idea was that we could have these genetically altered fireflies that you can put, actually embed inside your brain, that then connect with these fireflies in this other world and lead you through these doors. So that's basically what happens in my book.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that's really neat.
Yeah, that's what happens. And so the two, there's the world of Oron and there's the world of Earth, and so you start meeting these characters, the characters on Earth and characters on Oron, and you start making these connections, and it gets a little like, it's like a web. Like, every story connects to the next, and it kind of gets more and more complex with each story, which I want to continue in like a sequel to it, because there's other things that I want to say. But so on this planet of Oron, so this Lance Ray, he's this author, and he makes this journey to Oron. And then he comes back, leaving behind a lot of people that he made really angry on this planet. And he writes this phenomenally bestseller called Moon Wars, because he was inspired by the stories. So he basically, in a way, rapes the people there by stealing their stories and becoming very famous, like the most famous author on Earth. And then there's just basically more and more people that are out to get this guy because he's just so obnoxious. And he, I don't want to tell what actually happens at the end, but it's a surprise. Like, you would never imagine what actually happens at the end of the book. But
so his only sin is just being too big of a go-getter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Being too ambitious for his own good.
Too ambitious for his own good, like getting too big for his britches.
I mean, what I'm hearing is this is an allegory for the Me Too movement, and it's just women trying to bring down a good man.
Well, but you have to read the end to understand, because that might be what you think. Okay. So, and there's a lot more to it than that.
This is cool as hell.
Yeah. And then on the planet Oron, but see, these are like, because I believe like in the balance, I like, it's, we've got the positive, negative, the yin and the yang, I've trained in martial arts forever, and I don't think we can get rid of that. But when the balance is upset one way or the other, the universe has to right that balance, So on Earth, we went the way of technology. On this place, Oron, they chose the way more like a spiritual journey, but it's the same outcome basically, because the more power that you get, basically the more there's some weird thing that goes on that it causes corruption. And on Oron, there's like these two moons the red moon and the blue moon, which is beautifully depicted in that cover. And I won't say anything more about those moons. You have to read to find out.
So, I mean, you said that men were buying this, but if you had to say as the author, is this more of a lady book or is it a boy book?
I think it's absolutely for both. And I think men will enjoy, because it's not, they're all,
it's a unisex book. It uses they them pronouns.
it's transgender. What can I say? No. That was a joke for people who don't know.
Yeah, we would never publish. We probably would. I'm not in charge of what happened.
You might. But no, I was happy to see that you had published my book, and trust me, there's there's strong characters, there's weak characters, and it doesn't matter what they are, men or women. They all have their flaws and they all have their strengths. And Lance, I quite like him, actually. Lance Ray. I like him a lot. I'm glad I created him.
That's the writer. The writer
yes,
everybody hates.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, and this will decide whether or not it's a lady book or a boy book. Does anybody have their damn period?
You mean like on paper?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, then we're fine.
Are you kidding me?
We're fine.
But you know what? Natasha kills a few people. So
now, see, Brian. What you should have asked was, does it pass the Bechdel test?
Oh yeah, that's the one that women complained about, right? Where they're like, "Not enough women. Don't talk about men." That's 10 female characters, of course.
It's 10 female characters, and there's probably women who will find my book offensive. I mean, I don't know, but because these aren't women who. Well, you have to read it and see. I mean, to me, you know what? Okay, here's the thing. When I saw Alien. 2
different movies.
I mean, Alien. The first one with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
That movie made a huge...
directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, and when I saw that movie, I loved that movie so much. The reason I did was because you forgot after a while, and this has nothing to do with transhumanism or transgender or whatever. Because that's what what everybody think now, but I wasn't thinking that then. Obviously, it was just that you forgot who were men or women or whatever. It was only the person who was the smartest and the best at navigating things won in the end. And it didn't matter, you forgot basically all those other stupid things, you were caught up in the story so much and understood everybody, the people who failed in that movie failed for reasons, not because they were male or female or whatever, but they had certain weaknesses, reasons why they failed. And the person who made it through in the end, it had nothing to do with what the gender was,
I think it's completely right. I mean, was it Ripley, right?
Yeah.
That could have been written for a male or a female, really, if you really got down to it, for sure. She's happening kind of hot in that movie, but yes. That's no help in that. That's a casting call right there. They made that decision. But so I would say that this probably is a little more sci-fi then, right? Without ever reading it and just knowing.
I
like sci-fi
think,
then.
Yeah, and I love sci-fi. It's my favorite genre, but I'm very particular about sci-fi. Like Blade Runner is my favorite all-time movie. So yeah. And I don't think there's many women who would say that, right? So I mean, that's sure. My favorite movie ever of all time. I could watch it a million times. So
well, see, now you've asked for disagreement. Matt loves Blade Runner. I don't. I've watched it. I never watched the Blade Runner 2049 or whatever.
No,
it doesn't have enough explosions.
No, it doesn't have enough explosions. It's not scary. It's got a few good lines. It's a fine film.
It's not intended to be scary. It's a noir film.
You know what?
Yeah,
you're noir interesting.
So what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Or one of them.
I don't know. I mean, it's not a horror movie, but probably one of my favorite movies is like Pineapple Express or When Harry Met Sally. You know,
I was expecting you to say Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs is okay. House of a Thousand Corpses is a million times better.
Okay, I have to watch that one. I haven't.
Dude.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Watch anything by Rob Zombie. It's all
Yes.
incredible.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I don't watch movies. I watch TV shows, sitcoms.
Yeah. Everybody. Oh, you do.
That's it. Just turn on some Seinfeld, and that's fine.
Now here's a question, Brian. What do you think of Hellraiser, the original one?
Oh, the first two, they're pretty good for the world it creates, but they're stupid movies. Like, they're just not very good. The world is great, but the movies are stupid. I like them.
Yeah, it's I like the first one. I mean, someone name dropped Beckloff, my friend and streamer in the chat. He's made the point that Hellraiser's kind of actually he made a point that a lot of these horror movies have kind of crypto Christian messages, and that like the slasher movies are all like the sinners and like the ones who are doing really bad stuff always end up getting killed. And there's the final girl cliche of the final girl surviving is like the most innocent.
Well, that seems like a whole bunch of dissecting a bunch of shit that doesn't need to be dissected. I mean, Jason Voorhees just kills people, bro. It's just a slasher flick. It's not that big of a deal. I mean,
I didn't say it. He said it.
Well, he's just digging in. He's just pulling at threads that don't need to be pulled at. That's where we're at in society. He is pulling at threads that don't need to be pulled at, which leads us to our next thing I would like to talk about. Hi, my name is Bryden Proctor, king of the segues. Something you were saying before, Karen, about
it's
the
starting to make
culture.
me nervous every time you say that.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
Like you said, you were canceled years ago, and I think there's an interesting story there that you didn't really dig too deep into, so I really want to hear about it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a difficult topic.
Well, we don't have to if you don't want to.
No, it's okay. We can talk about it, but because I think it's important. I mean, I started this creative writing program back in 1996. I went into Central Juvenile Hall in Los Angeles and started working with these kids, and started working actually with high-risk offenders, kids that were facing life sentences for serious crimes. And I started with a group of 8 girls, working with these girls. And I was interested because as an author, I actually I wrote and illustrated a lot of children's books like years ago. And I would go to schools and talk to people in the schools, and talk to kids in the schools. And I did like a series of workshops. And one of the questions I would ask was, if you had 15 minutes to stand in front of the entire world and everybody was going to listen to you, what would you say? The
N-word.
Oh, you finally got it in. Okay, good. I get
in a second.
In a second. Okay. Well, all right. That would be your choice, and you have a right to that. But I will say something else. This one girl. So it was a defining moment for me. This girl, she stands up and she wants to read her paper. And she goes, "Okay, so I love shoes. And there's a sale on, and we should all go buy shoes." And she started, she's telling the world how she wants to buy shoes. And this is in a nice school in the Pacific Palisades, and this is her 15 minutes in front of the entire world, And then she realized that this wasn't going over very well. And so then she goes,
"She's a dumb vapid bitch."
And then she says at the end, she goes, oh, and there are people starving in the world. So I think we should save them. That was her 15 minutes. And so I said, wow, that was really discouraging. So I decided to go to Juvenile Hall, and maybe the kids there might have something different to say, and that just sucked me in. And I started getting really interested in the stories of these kids.
Wait, hold on, pause, okay. Hold on, pause.
Yes,
it literally took public school students being just hollow, empty shells for you to go, okay, I need to see somebody with some personality, even if they're criminals.
Well, life is a journey, right?
Golly.
So I started working with these kids in juvenile hall, and it just that just took off, and then other writers, like really amazing writers, started coming and volunteering their time, and it just started growing and growing, and it became this thing. We formed a nonprofit. I started running the thing, and then it just became cool in Hollywood. And I had a co-founder, which was a nun. She was like, anyway, she was not a very nice person at the end of the day, basically, let me say. So she got a little carried away with her, position and wanting to take over the whole thing. I was just like, it introduced me to the whole nonprofit world and how these people, once Hollywood got interested because they thought it was really cool, because mind you, it wasn't cool in the beginning. Like everybody thought it was crazy, but as it went on, it got, cool, and they all wanted to be a part of it. And then I just started clashing with these people that were on the board and with this nun, and they wanted to have their big parties and all these celebrities' homes, but they didn't want to invite the kids because somebody might steal something.
They had kids there. It's
just,
different.
There were security issues. So eventually, I just I basically stood up to them and at the top of a building in Century City and said I refuse to be a part of what you're doing. And then I got kicked out, and I got basically canceled by a lot of powerful people, and that's when it first happened. So, yeah.
Well, when you say that, I mean, like this is when did this all go to?
This 2006, basically, that happened. Yeah.
2006 was back when that would have been like a very private type of, like, people just blacklisted you.
Yeah.
Now like canceling means like in addition to blacklisting you, now they've publicly shamed you and there's lunatics coming to your house. Well,
yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was all over the city. I mean, people knew about what had happened to me. That it wasn't like such a private thing, and I couldn't get. But it wasn't like I was. Certainly, nobody wanted to put that in the news or anything like that. It was kept very quiet. But so because I had that experience, I mean, later on, I have been, canceled more publicly and things like that. But it was a sort of a precursor to what's happening now. And it did show me how, these people in power, they use their power to, they pass their money around. Nobody ever really they pass their money around to one another. The whole thing is like, well, I'll give you $25,000 if you give me $25,000, and then we can give each other an award. And an award.
It's a classic self-looking ice cream cone.
Exactly, and you can take that model and apply it to everything, basically what occurs if you're in that club. Mm-hmm. And I had to at a certain point decide: do I want to compromise myself and be in this club, or am I going to say no? And I said no. So that's basically what happened. But
good.
Yeah, but I mean, so for me, it was interesting to see what's happening now, having it already, and that's why I said, like in the beginning, that actually for me it's been freeing, because my voice was like, I couldn't get a book deal, I couldn't get even a job in the nonprofit, in that sector. I couldn't do any of the things I was doing, but now I'm speaking in a way that I would never have been able to speak. So it is kind of ironic, and I don't know when. I know people are being silenced. Like I was just suspended from Twitter for 12 hours.
What did you do?
Stop saying racial slurs, you maniac.
And I've been called a racist by, by people that they're convinced that I'm a racist because they spread these rumors. And I have my former students, for example, one black woman. I mean, I kept in touch with my students over like 25 years. Oh. One of my students spent 25 years in prison, one of my original students, and she got out on the night that Trump became president.
Do you think maybe one of your original students, maybe they were already in prison, or
what do you mean?
Were they, when they were your student, they were already
in prison, juvenile hall. They were in juvenile hall awaiting trial. Yeah, awaiting trial.
So,
but yeah, so I've had them defend me and say, I'm sorry, but because I don't say the right language. I refuse to use the right language, the right woke speak. I refuse it. I'm called certain things, but the people who know on the street who know me defend me.
I don't know, Karen. I don't know, Karen.
Karen, exactly.
You seem like you're full of BS, Karen.
I am. Yeah, right. Ah.
Oh, that stinks, dude.
Spare me your white woman tears.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and that's another thing. I find it interesting that, like, when I started this creative writing program I started this this boxing club in Luxor for girls, which was pretty outrageous. So I was told by the woke left, how dare I do that? I'm trying to impose, this Western culture on these girls and my white privilege. Yes, my white privilege. And I'm trying to, I was also told that I started Inside Out Writers to assuage my white guilt, and I took away opportunities from other people who could have done it, people of color who could have done, like things like this. And
to your knowledge, was there anybody else that was doing that? Do you know?
At that time, it was very, well, as I said, it wasn't cool, but when it became cool and everybody else wanted it, then it changed. But here's an example. So what I did in Egypt was, I was just living in a villa. I put up my boxing bag and I started boxing in my yard, So all the kids, sometimes I would have like 25 kids outside my gate saying, we want to box. Sure. What am I going to do? Say, oh, sorry, I don't want to infringe on your culture.
Sorry, you're
go
dirty.
away. No, go away. I'm like I'm doing this evil thing here. I don't want to teach it to you,
Actually, funny enough, I set this up so I could punch all of you. So no, you can't.
You children are afflicted with internalized racism. Please go away and educate yourselves.
Because I am going to infect you with my evil, white whatever. So let's flip it over. Let's say somebody comes from Egypt and moves next door to me here in Los Angeles, and they are practicing outside their stick fighting. They have this kind of dancing stick fighting. And I go, hey, that looks really interesting. Can you teach me? And they say yes. Are they imposing on me? Nobody would ever say, that.
No, they might.
So
they might end up putting that stick up your butt. I mean, that's just, I'm just saying.
Well, there's always, we always run that risk, right? But
of Egyptian men putting sticks in your butt. I go to the store. I worry about it. It's a fear I have. Actually.
Okay, well, you better stay home. You better get some help with that.
No, I get where you're coming from, and that's super unfortunate. Like, I think that this has gone on, for such a long time. And let me know how much you'd agree with this, that like it's definitely only gotten worse because it has this now internet mob mentality thing. But like once you're out of the group, I'm sorry, you're out of the group forever. And that's it. It doesn't matter what, you're not allowed.
Yeah, I mean, even these people that bend over backwards and beg for forgiveness, they're never, that's it for, you can never, like you say, you can never. So why would you do that? Like, I don't care. Like, I know, when the Black Lives Matter thing came and every single one of my friends, which I had a lot of liberal friends, put that, made their profile black or whatever. And I would be like, if somebody says to me, do you support BLM? I feel like I would, if somebody says that to me in that manner, I would rather like be tortured to death than say, I'm not going to bow. If somebody, I had an experience when I was, going wayward from being a Christian, where somebody called me and said, are you a Christian? It's the same thing. I'm not answering anybody who interrogates me in that manner. I refuse to like follow that, go down that road, So, but people just buckle so easily, and that's really disheartening, I think.
It's me and you. Am I being detained? That's it. No, I don't get. I've said before, if the government wasn't pushing the damn vaccine so hard and they would be like, no, you can't have it, I'd be like, I want it. Why are they keeping it from me? It's not that I have a problem with the damn vaccine. It's that I don't like that they're pushing it this hard.
Yeah.
It's like
don't get me started on that. I have a friend. She's like so radical, and she says, I don't care at this point. I don't care if it's the plague. I'm not taking that vaccine.
Yeah.
And that's the result of what they made that happen.
Well, yeah, they're trying to turn it into like they've invented this new clinical psycho babble term, vaccine hesitancy, trying to tie it to all kinds of nut job whatever. Most of the people I'm sure who are like upset about what's going on don't have a problem with vaccines in principle. Okay, I don't have a problem with vaccines in principle. There's nothing wrong with getting.
I do now. I do now. I started looking into it. I do now.
Exactly. Me too.
They could have just kept it shut. And then now I'm like, wait a second. Why are you shot up with 16 shots from 0 to 6 months? That's insane. Hold the phone.
When people are actually looking into something that they didn't used to look into, they just accepted it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like nobody. There's nothing wrong with vaccines as a technology, but the issue is I have of it is all these defective and potentially dangerous products being rushed to market. It's like people are aware of it now because of COVID. But 10 years ago, the governor of Texas mandated that people, mandated that preteen girls get shot up with Gardasil to protect against HPV, which was another rushed vaccine that could have caused cervical cancer.
Yeah, there's a big long list of things like that, and so you can't trust it. And and then they try to say that it's these white Trumpers, but Trump was the one who pushed the vaccines through. It makes when you really start thinking that, doesn't make sense.
He got booed at a rally recently for vaccines.
Yeah, I know. So he's probably a little worried about that. It'll be interesting to see how he navigates through this. But the fact I read it's 70% of blacks are vaccine hesitant, but they don't tell you that. So for example, in New York, they're making all these draconian laws now where if you don't have your vaccine passport, you can't go to the you can't do things, you can't have a job, you can't go to school. So who are they hurting? They write Black Lives Matter in the street, and then they're 70% of the black population, they're basically cutting them off because they don't trust the government, and they have good cause not to trust the government, and they haven't done anything to make them less hesitant. So it's so much hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's they're doing it, I think, in San Francisco now. I think LA is doing that. New Orleans is doing the vaccine thing, which they got hit by a hurricane. Coincidence? Honolulu's going to do it.
I think it's I do.
Yeah, how about that? I think Bill Gates, he's been doing things with the weather, so I don't know.
He's not even Jewish. What are you talking about?
Okay, well,
pause, everybody. We're getting into some weird areas. Come on, they're big.
Hey, wait a minute. Who are the top guys running the world? They're all white.
Yes.
How about that?
White.
Mm-hmm.
Very white.
So, anyway, I'll just leave that there.
Who are the top guys running the flat Earth right now? All right. Just a bunch of very.
I don't know because I'm not sure I really want to go down the path of looking into that any further.
Well, who's the CEO of Rand McNally? That's the real conspiracy. Whatever company manufactures all the globes.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I have so much to think about tonight. I am really not going to sleep. I never even thought about that. The globes.
Globes. It's such a big business until who came along? Google ruined it. Who has a globe in the classroom now? Maybe those guys are battling. Okay. Wow. It's a comedy show. It's a comedy.
We need to do some investigative reporting on this. Who bought out all the globes? Okay. Who bought all the globe companies and shut them down? Huh?
It's like this. It's like how GM got rid of all the streetcars.
Yeah.
Did they really?
That's the thing. Yeah, there used to be streetcars in every American city, but car companies, lobbied to get that shut down to get people to buy cars. Personally, I've ridden a lot of streetcars in Europe. They're or as light rail, as we call them now. Light rail is the new upscale term. Streetcars are too declass.
Buddy, when you get on them, they're no longer called a light rail. There's nothing light about them. It's about as heavy as you can get for the people in Peoria. I'm calling it that.
You have to sit in the middle. Sorry.
Because it's always
I couldn't resist.
We're eventually going to add those drops.
Terror
House
just for
Radio.
that, I'm never going to be invited back.
Oh, no. If anything, you're definitely coming back all the time. You have to sit in the middle.
Oh, dear.
Hey, Matt. No, for real. I've been looking about. I've been trying to buy a new shampoo. I was hoping you could help me.
Uh-oh.
It's because he's bald and fat.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, it's part of the Terror House charm.
That's cool, right? Because I was going to ask you for advice on buying step stools because he's short.
He's short. Okay, I got it. I got that.
Oh, that's good. But I wouldn't know. I can't. You live in Mexico. Fuck you. Everybody's short. Kiss my ass.
Well, and you gotta, I'm 6 feet tall, so yeah. So
Okay.
So besides everything else,
Listen, I am 5'6", and that is the perfect height for any man to be.
Actually,
you better
never
watch your
mind.
words. You better watch your words.
I had a. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I had an experience. So I've had men.
And it was very pleasant, and he was great, and had a huge dick, and short men are great.
Well, actually, I have not had a husband yet, and I've had 3 of them who was taller than me. All right, so I'm still waiting.
You're a freak, Karen. You're too tall.
And I mean, that might have been another. I realized that maybe I was a little intimidating when I wore my heels.
Yeah, because then you're 6'6".
Exactly.
But yes, go on about how great 5'6" is.
I don't discriminate, so it just.
Wow, we're not a lower caste, okay? No. We are the supreme men.
I mean, just think of we have to look at history like Napoleon. I mean, Napoleon.
Yeah.
No,
those guys were short.
Exactly.
They were short, man.
But they were short in those days, right? So I don't know. Generally,
better watch them.
We're talking about.
Better watch him. I'm bringing it out.
Anyway, yeah. So I really hope everybody buys Luminaria. I hope everybody buys Luminaria before
I mean, your comment there kind of did confirm the theory. It's like taller women tend to date shorter men just because there's not many men taller than them.
Well, yeah, otherwise.
Whereas shorter women are more obsessed with height. They're the ones who are all like 6 feet only.
Well, maybe it's supposed to, balance out. Like maybe there's some sort of thing where.
Maybe she just doesn't want to date black guys. You ever think of that?
Ooh.
Well, I actually know I dated my share of. I married. Never mind. I've dated my share of everything. So, and as I said, I wouldn't discriminate. Why would I do that?
See, look, now, when I first started the show, I was pretty sober. Aren't you lucky? I waited until, the show to start drinking.
Yeah, you're only just getting started, I can see.
Oh, man. Got nothing but bangers coming out now.
This episode is going to answer the all-important question. Is it possible to be canceled twice?
Wow.
It might be.
I don't know.
We're testing the boundaries of that. But yeah.
Everybody here has written a book except me. I've just talked about it and gone, I'll write one.
Oh,
And then,
well, there's only 3 of us here, so
yeah,
it's not
I
such a
know.
big majority or minority.
Yeah.
No, you'll have your opportunity. Why haven't you?
Oh, I'm too busy making
Like
jokes and
talking.
talking.
You're too busy
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an issue.
I think what you should do is just record yourself talking and then just, on the book.
I think that's how Sean Hannity wrote his book.
That would rule. That's how I should write my book. I'll start it
Yeah.
out and be like, call me boop. Like they'll have to edit. You'll have to edit so many words out of it.
Are words edited out here?
No.
No.
Of course, I haven't sent anything over to Matt. That I was like, if I send him over some of the things that I would like to trick him into publishing, I mean,
So what attracted you to my book, Matt?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I did have one question I was going to ask earlier. Well, I've got multiple questions, but this is the most like the one that's burning right now. Luminaria is set in the 1980s. Did you pick that setting for a particular reason, as opposed to say setting it in a contemporary setting?
Well, I felt it would be, there's so much going on now. Well, first of all, I started writing it a long time ago. So, but I felt like there's so much going on now that would take away from the actual story. So I wanted people to escape from what's happening now. But if you read the story, like the story's, it's not a long book, right? It's not a long book, but there's a lot of layers to it. So you can actually find a lot in there that relates to what's happening now, but as like leading up to what's happening now. That's what I kind of wanted to do. And if I write, well, I have started writing, but if I do this sequel thing, it actually is going to take place, a lot of years will have passed since this original story. So I chose the 80s because it was a time more of people look back with nostalgia, I think, to that time, before, especially now. So it's a kind of an escape, but it leaves you like, I had a couple people read it where they were like, okay, this made me like, I have to read this again because there's some things here going on that, that are beneath the surface that you have to actually like read a little bit deeper to get into it. So you can read it on a very entertainment level, which is very easy to read. I think it's pretty entertaining, or you can read it on a deeper level. And I mean, lots of crazy things like happen in the story. So lots of crazy things.
I have 2 questions about it. One, is it funny? Are there jokes in there?
There's some fun. Yeah, there's some funny stuff in there that happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And 2, are you going to do an audiobook version of it? Because that's the only way.
Love to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's the only way you'll read it.
Yeah, I'm like I'm real fidgety, so I gotta.
He has dyslexia. He doesn't want to admit it.
I don't have dyslexia. You've got dyslexia.
But I like to now with audiobooks. Yeah, I like to read audiobooks too. So I get it. Yeah, I would love to. It should be an audiobook. It's a little because each chapter is in a different voice. I was even thinking about that, like how
I do impressions. Please just
you can be Lance Ray.
I'm a lady. Oh,
No.
I'm this lady.
I'm also this lady who's a lesbian.
Oh, I'm
But
that
there-
lady. I'm Marge Simpson.
There's some.
This is the voice.
There's
of this
some
one.
interesting relationships in the book. That's for sure. Yeah.
No, I mean it sounds interesting. You definitely sold me because I didn't know anything about you coming into this, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, it's a lady. And then
It's
you
a
showed up.
lady.
You
I'm a
showed
lady.
up. It's a lady. But you showed up, and I'm like, oh boy, she's gonna ask me about the warranty of my car, and like,
Wait a minute.
At a call center.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about that.
The extended warranty of my car, but like within minutes, you were the most interesting person that's ever been on this show.
Oh,
Like
wow.
honestly, I
I mean,
usually hate guest
yeah.
episodes. Not that we don't have good guests and I don't like them, but like you were like, oh yeah, and I went to Egypt because my dad talked to God. I'm like, oh, okay, let's fuck.
Yeah, he did. And he actually became a very highly successful, one of the most influential Christian writers of the 80s, actually. Yes, he did. You can look him up.
He has a Wikipedia page.
Yes, he does.
Are you Christian now?
I do not. Okay, so this is a complicated subject.
Okay, well here, let me make it easy for you. I'm not.
Okay.
So, you don't have to
You know,
feel
I
like you're
have,
dancing
you know,
around.
like I have faith, but I feel like these labels, like I'm that outside of things that I don't really like to put these labels on myself, because immediately you say something, people, especially now, they just put you in a box. So I really don't. And I feel like also with my writing, I'm kind of going on a journey, because I do like, okay, this was my problem with Christianity. And I have respect for, one thing I learned in my travels is, I have respect for anybody's, belief or, whatever. People. Okay. Well, I mean, I really think that, it's not my business, basically.
Right.
So, but the problem that I had was, when you become a Christian, and it's a very, as an evangelical Christian, you're supposed to get to this point of saying this prayer, like at 9 years old, basically. If you grow up in a Christian family by 9 years old, the age of, reason, you should have figured this out, and you need to pray this prayer and become a Christian. And there's a lot of pressure on you to do it. And I know
that's the sinner's prayer, right?
The sinner's prayer, exactly.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, so I'm not as familiar with all
right.
that.
So you, and
I was raised Baptist, and I got, I was baptized, all of that, and it turns out all those people were fucking nuts. So I'm not really Southern Baptist.
Okay,
real
okay,
fire
I
and
get it.
brimstone.
Okay, so I grew up in extremely conservative fire and brimstone. If I understand where you're coming from, absolutely. And but so this is my problem with it. And this is my problem with all religions, is that, or at least the main one. Well, let's say Islam and Christianity. Let's narrow it down to it.
Because not Scientology, all of those really sane people over there.
Yeah, but let's just stick to the two main. Oh, we've got Judaism, but I think that's a little bit separate.
And Buddhism, but yeah.
No, but these two religions where you once if you believe it, and that was the problem that I had, that leap from faith to knowledge. Like, how do you make that leap? It's faith, Yeah. And so for me, I feel like the world would be a lot better place, a humbler place, if people just acknowledge that they don't know.
Yep.
But if they just say, this is what I believe. So, how much, if you think about it, how that would change everything. The problem is, like, God is on my side, I'm going to, everybody needs to bow to the will of, whatever. So that was always my problem. So I have a faith, and sometimes I think I have like a lot of faith, and I'm like the doubting Thomas. I just, I doubt things, and I try, and I think too much about things. That's the thing about it. So I can never get to that point where, I don't feel like I have the right to say, I know I'm right, and everybody else, if you don't believe the way I do, you're wrong. So that's basically it.
How familiar with you are? Familiar? See, the drunk's coming in. How familiar with you? I'm nailing it. I'm doing very good.
I like it. You can just continue. I get it.
How familiar with Soren Kierkegaard are you?
Not really much, but yeah.
Okay, so his whole life he didn't believe in Christianity, and that was his whole thing in philosophy. He was like, I guess I just have to force myself to believe. And he wrote a lot about anxiety and a lot of stuff that, like, I am a big fan of terror management theory, and philosophically I'm definitely a pessimist, but you seem like the perfect candidate to go and read a bunch of depressing fucking books that might make you feel a little better,
No, you mean I'm so depressed that the depressing books?
No. It'll make you feel better. It made me feel better.
Okay.
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm the one who got him started on this.
Oh, okay. I'm Okay. Well, I'm somewhat familiar, but I haven't, gone into it extensively. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's basically. I don't know that I can ever get beyond that, because if you're really honest, you don't know, right? You don't know. So, yeah. I mean, so.
Well, we should have a conversation sometime
Mhm,
about
mhm.
terror management theory. I would love to talk to you about it. It's really interesting. And for
Okay.
anybody who doesn't already know, Sheldon Solomon is the big proponent. Him and two other guys came up with it. The Worm at the Core is the book. It's so incredible. Yeah, I mean, you
Wait,
sound
what's the
like
book
that.
again?
The Worm at the Core.
Oh, that
It's
sounds
a
like.
it's a experimental sociology kind of thesis on Kierkegaard and Ernest Becker, but like they ran all these experiments and they found that basically death reminders
Mhm,
made people more aggressive and all of that, and people tend to go towards religion or like a political party or something like that to
mhm.
make their lives fulfilled. And it seems like your father kind of did that. I don't know whether or not he heard the voice of God. I don't know what that is. But he still went and did
Mhm.
what was probably a good thing, because
Yeah.
Western religions, in my opinion, are way better than communism or, what else is going on? Vampirism. It's Romania. It's vampires out there. It's nothing but vampires and castles in Romania.
I love those vampires.
They're
But
vampires.
I mean, always had a lot of respect for my father, because he actually did. He was not a hypocrite. He followed what he said. I mean, in the era where there was all the prosperity preachers on TV, he spoke out against all of them. I mean, my dad, he would travel anywhere and sleep on a sofa in Soviet Russia, or and spend his own money to go. Like, he didn't care. He really didn't care about money very much, but he became very successful just by what he was doing. Like all the universities that offered him honorary degrees, he refused because he said he didn't earn it. He was like that. So I did respect. I had a lot of respect for him, and we clashed a lot. I always like stood up to him, but when I had this thing with the Inside Out Writers, with the nonprofit that I started, like that's when we really like he respected me for doing that, for standing up to them, and that kind of helped our our relationship a lot, to get a lot better.
Because basically, I would imagine it was kind of the same thing. I mean, I don't know if you would know or not, but I would imagine there were plenty of Christian organizations, evangelical organizations, rather specifically evangelical, probably trying to knock down his door to be like, oh, look, and you can make
Oh yeah,
money
he now
from
he
this.
refused agents and things like that. He just was
Wow.
very his own person, so I think, yeah, I took that to heart, I think, and respected that, even though I
Well,
didn't always agree with him. Doesn't you don't have, and that's the thing. Like nowadays, like you feel like on every single issue, you have to agree. You don't have to agree on every single issue with somebody. It's not necessary. You can still talk to people, but we've been put in these like lanes. Like one of the things, don't get in my lane. There's like all this kind of stuff, like stay in your lane,
yeah.
stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy.
Well, people aren't allowed to have nuance any longer either. I mean, you can't look. I want to get out of Afghanistan, but I also would rather have those 2,500 troops in Afghanistan and not get refugees. That doesn't mean I'm not anti-war. It just means that I am way more. I don't want Afghanis over here. It doesn't mean that I'm not anti-war. I think
Right.
that's kind of where we're at.
Or you could frame it like this. You have nobody's really against gay people or trans people. We all want, live your life and enjoy it. But at the same time, we don't want twerking transsexuals teaching 8-year-olds about masturbation or whatever.
Because there's no, I mean, like, I don't know, we've lost the sense of decency, or I mean, even these things that we say, like it's you're put down for believing. It's like deconstructing everything so that they can build something else. That's what's happening, and I think that's and it's amazing that people don't see what's going. I mean, to me, it's amazing that people don't see what's going on. I mean, it seems obvious to me.
You're just smarter than average. You're just smarter than average, or you're familiar with postmodernism. This has been the issue the whole time, and it took me like several years. And then a few months ago, I don't know, earlier this year, before I found out about Michel Foucault and like just that whole thing of postmodernism. All it is deconstruction, but there's no end to it. It's fun to do philosophically. It's fun to sit around and talk about power dynamics, but it's ridiculous. And applied postmodernism is critical race theory and all of that, which they've just chosen and said, we're going to do the Western one where white people are bad. They're not going to do critical race theory, in other countries where China is, bad to people in where are they being where's China being dickheads?
Xinjiang.
What, the Uyghurs, or however you pronounce the Uyghurs.
Yeah,
the Uyghurs.
The Uyghurs. Yeah,
and the Falun Gong religion, which I have in my book.
I mean, they just choose not to focus on that. I mean, at the end of the day, the media is the real enemy. But
wow, yeah, crazy. And it's interesting because I've been I'm writing this other piece. Elon Musk I find really interesting, and I've looked at a lot of stuff that he's doing, and he wants to create like these stations in space, like so everybody's going to live on these. Going to move everybody out there, and it's kind of like
how many people have to die before we've got? He can't make apartment buildings that big in space.
But I mean, does he not figure out so what are you going to do? Like just transport all the problems that we have here, and you're just going to transport it there and make it even. I mean, that just creates a bigger issue. Like who's gonna be fighting over the which countries are going to own what in outer space, and all the debris. What are you gonna all this debris floating around, and plus it's like okay, we're gonna make the Earth a beautiful place, but it's all messed up, but we're gonna make it beautiful. It's like, okay, I messed up my bedroom. Well, I don't need to clean that. I'll just move on to the next room, and and mess that one up, and everything will then everything. It's like moving out of. It's like the whole mentality of moving out of Afghanistan. Well, we didn't clean up our mess. We're just gonna leave, and then we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out after that. It doesn't work. That does not work.
Matt, we gotta get drops. You gotta play the Doom music. I just said play the Doom music.
I love Dune. But
if I try to cue that up, my computer's gonna fucking crash.
Well, whatever. We'll get it set up someday, and I'll have the drops.
Someday.
But it said Doom, not Dune, but still good.
Doom.
Yeah, Dune is pretty good too. This is the best guess we've ever had. Honest to God.
And by the way, I'm going to be checking out that warranty on your card, just so you know. Don't think you can escape that easily by deflecting.
I'm gonna end up just being friends with an older blonde woman from Los Angeles. Who could have known? That's not.
I know. See, this is exactly like you just can't judge. Oh, but my book, you can judge by its cover because it's as good as the cover, but you can't judge other books by their cover necessarily. But my book, you can.
That's a cool cover, dude. Matt Lawrence fucking rules. He always does really interesting, cool art. He does not follow me on Twitter, by the way. I followed him. He will not follow me back.
By the way, I have artwork inside the book, by the way.
Oh, you really? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I should mention, I probably shouldn't because it might hurt sales. We did serialize the chapters on Terror House magazine earlier this year, and you can see some of the artwork attached to those chapters. Actually, wait, there's a link to it in the description.
All of that will be brought down immediately because I believe in selling books. That's what I believe in.
Okay.
Matt thinks he's in charge of this company. I run the company. Unless cops are in, then it's Matt.
He's the Flavor Flav, and I'm the Chuck D. You know, he's the guy everyone thinks is an incoherent idiot, but he's
You're
actually a
the
genius who.
Suck-D.
What?
You're the Suck-D.
But he's actually the genius who holds it all together.
It's true.
Wow.
It's true. Look at my fucking hair that I have.
I can't believe I got so lucky. This blonde chick.
It might actually be one of the best shows that we've done for a while. Like, I mean, we haven't had a great guest in a while. Like, I like my guests. Don't get me wrong. Matt always books great guests, people that write books. Mark Solo is a great guy, you know, but none of them.
None can compare to you.
Yeah, none of them threatened to
I mean,
box people in Egypt. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, there was also Eris.
no, Eris can suck my dick. I like her, but you know, she's awful to be around.
She'd probably take that as a command.
Oh, yeah. I know she'd take it's awful to be around you as a compliment, though. Like, she's incapable. It just goes over her head. Eris rules, though. She's a good girl. But
After all that, what will he say about me tomorrow?
oh man.
Yeah, that was a fun show. I completely forgot the other questions I was going to ask about Luminaria.
Matt actually cannot write. That's not just a criticism of his writing. It's just actually
I'm writing a poetry book, Bryden.
Oh, I'm writing poetry.
I can't write poetry. It's beyond. But you know, I'm sorry. I can't do everything. Okay.
It's going to set the world on fire. Karen is going to have to smuggle it into countries like the Bible.
It's
going to be banned.
Yeah, it's going to set the world on fire. You know what? I imagine it
I
will
have
bomb.
some experience.
I imagine it will
experience in smuggling. Okay, so, but you know, I don't know what my book. I might have to smuggle my book into Egypt.
I'm just going to throw my book into the ocean and go. Nah, maybe an Asian will.
In a bottle.
Yeah, a big old fucking handle of vodka. I'll just shove it down in there and be like, send it off to sea.
My final statement.
That would be cool because then I could walk into the sea like this and drown myself. Like to romantically kill yourself is the best way to go. You know, I want to go like fighting. No, I want to go in a joke. I had this great idea. I want to go skydiving, right? And then, like, because you have to go tandem, you know, so like somebody else is attached to you. The best way to go is you go skydiving for the first time tandem, and then you just unhook yourself, and then you're just like, see ya.
But the other person's okay, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
They just have to live.
You're not gonna bring somebody, and you're gonna leave them with that.
Yeah, they have to like live with that. They're like, I don't even know what happened. We were falling. He seemed to be having fun, and then just unhooked himself, gave me the finger, and just floated off
into space. And we never found the body. So then, just imagine the stories that could be written about that.
Or
you could become famous.
Or even better, somebody's just driving to the CVS and is like
on the top of their car.
They just right on the windshield.
Out of space. Yeah.
Just right on the windshield. Just a guy.
I mean, you know what? That's a great start to a book. A Stephen King book.
Oh, that jogged me about one of the questions I wanted to ask you about.
Oh, good.
Kind of a generic one, but you mentioned Stephen King, but like, what other writers would you consider your primary influences? Not necessarily with Luminaria, but like in general, who's the writers have influenced your writing, your style the most?
I mean, I really like. One of the writers that I really like is Jack Vance. Not everybody knows about him, but he's like writes science fiction and fantasy.
I've read a few of his works.
Yeah, I just like his sense of humor and the way that he creates his worlds and his characters. I like Kurt Vonnegut. I like when I a lot of things that influenced me were I Alexander Dumas. I mean, I read all these books that were amazing, these amazing thick stories that people don't read anymore. And I read a lot of Daphne du Maurier, love those stories.
Yeah, Rebecca's a good novel.
Yeah, and Salam Rushdie. I like these books that create these, like, a lot of richness to the stories, some detail, things like that. But I also like stories that create great characters. So I love Agatha Christie. I've read every Agatha Christie book because she creates these great characters, and I love the way she says, like, oh, there's nothing as evil as a village, what goes on in a village. And when I lived in I found that to be true, because when I was living in this little village in communist Yugoslavia, which is near Lake Bled. Yes.
Question. Agatha Christie, so I know who we're talking about. She did is it like the ABC murder thing or whatever? Yeah. Okay.
Lots of these murder stories.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Murder on the Orient Express. All those stories. Okay. So but what I like is I mean, the stories are like ridiculous, but I like her characters. She would create these characters that were really great. So when I lived in this village, I was married to this, Yugoslavian rock star back in Yugoslavia, when it was Yugoslavia, and that's another story. But when I first, yes.
Where can I find the music? Is it on YouTube?
Yes, that's embarrassing.
Can you send it to me? Because I will play it on my streams all the time. Okay, good.
Alexander Mezek. That's the name.
Well,
Mezek.
You're gonna have to send it to me.
Yeah,
there's a small chance it might turn into a viral meme because of this. You may have unleashed something horrible, Bryden.
At least into my stream, guys. Yeah, we'll play it every week. But if it's good, but
no. Anyway, okay. So in this, when I first showed up in this village, this girl from Los Angeles, it was like everybody's peeking out their windows at me, and all of this. And there was I'll never forget. Like, there was this lady. Everybody had chickens, so the starter mama, that's my mother-in-law, she wanted to kill this chicken, so we could eat the chicken. And so everybody calls this neighbor lady to kill their chickens. And this neighbor lady, she's a very jolly woman. She'll come over and wring the chicken's neck.
That's her job. That's her job.
Because nobody wanted to do it themselves, so they called this woman because she quite happily would wring the chicken's necks. And then they told me that, her husband had hanged himself in the attic like years before, and this is the woman that goes around, wringing the necks of all the chickens. So I always think I would think about that in relation to
King. That's a fucking Stephen King story, if anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was very creepy. Yeah, very, very, and she would do it with this jolly laughter. That, like, she was a very jolly woman. So it was just kind of, So that's village life. But yeah.
She killed her husband.
Okay, this is exactly.
That was her thing. She was like,
and in order to keep herself from killing somebody else, she had to keep wringing the chicken's necks, or else she might
That's a great story. You're a writer. Why don't you write that?
It's like how people who quit smoking will start chewing gum.
Yeah, exactly. Or like people that stop raping kids start raping fully grown women.
Okay.
No, I'm joking.
That makes sense.
That's not a thing that happens. People that are pedophiles just keep doing the pedophile thing. But yeah. Listen. It was pretty funny. No, that's what little place was that in?
It's in a village near Lake Bled.
I don't know what that is. What country it lives in?
It was now Slovenia. But it was, Yugoslavia. So all under Tito. It was communist era.
Okay. What would his...
Slovenia is where Melania Trump is from. I figured that would stick in your brain.
Yeah, Melania. She's from there.
Oh, no, I don't give a flying... I don't care about where... What did she do? She was like... it's very bad that people do bullying to each other. I think it was terrible. Like, what do I give a shit about what that fucking cunt did? Like I thank God she didn't have her anti-bullying thing take off, because it's like we're still dealing with Nancy Reagan's anti-drug bullshit. All right, like do drugs and bully people. That's what I think.
Just
I
let it
told you.
be. Let it be.
I told you just a few beers in.
Just a few beers in, but you seem like a pretty nice guy generally.
I just think I'm really funny, but no, you seem really nice. You seem way too nice to be on this show, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. Matt's used to it. Matt's used to it.
Sorry, there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, like, what was it like living under fucking? Did you actually live under communism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
What
7
the
years.
hell is
7 years I lived between London and a little village in Yugoslavia. Mm-hmm.
So what was the general demeanor over there?
I didn't really. Nothing. I didn't really notice anything. I mean, it was you felt an oppression because you did feel that people were not free as they would be, let's say, in the West. But on the other hand, there were things that I actually liked about it. But I was in a bit of a privileged situation there because of who my husband was. But and the family was, a really nice family. Like he was not a nice person, but I have great relationship with all the rest of the family to this day. My daughter, I go back there anytime. I'm like part of that family. But when I felt, you had the feeling like if you would go to the other communist countries like Hungary, when you would get into Yugoslavia, you would feel a little bit of a sense of relief because it was a little bit freer there. It had a little more, and particularly in Slovenia is a part of the country that's the most I think the most westernized, should we say.
None of these countries sound like real countries. They just sound like countries I made up.
Yeah. Well, I think they're real.
Slovakia,
but, we could all,
like,
yeah. Who's hurt? But actually, Lake Bled inspired Disney. It's a very beautiful place. Sounds pretty crazy.
Montenegro is definitely a fake country. I mean, it's got a racial slur in the name.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. That one definitely sounds like something I would make up.
Montenegro, that's right. But and then when the country, it was interesting because when Tito died, the whole place fell apart, and you had all these underlying hatreds, which you can see come out. Like places are held together so tenuously, like Northern Ireland and all these kind of things. So then when he died, everything just fell apart.
All right, just watch your words about Ireland, but that's
Why?
He's Irish.
No reason to fucking, no reason to talk.
I'm going to talk some more about Ireland.
Oh, it's a fucking shithole filled with retards. We're the blacks of white. So I'm fully aware. It's pretty terrible. And listen, my family is, I at least am Dutch and Irish, which means my family made this country. They also ruined it.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. to take full responsibility. But there's the thing, like, okay, so I'm I'm Mennonite. My mother can trace her family back like hundreds of years to people that were persecuted and all this kind of stuff.
Wait, Mennonite, those are the Amish that wear purple, right?
Well, we didn't wear purple. She didn't wear purple. I didn't know about that.
They wore different colors.
It's like,
it's
like some connection to the Amish, yeah. But so my like all white people in
Pennsylvania people. And
yeah,
like Dutch
and my dad,
German
English, Norwegian, all that.
Yeah.
But so, for example, like my daughter, she married, so she's half Slovene, and then whatever I am, and then her husband is Russian and Jordanian, Arab. So she has children. So and this whole thing about like white supremacy and what they're teaching in the schools now. I mean, I have two other grandkids. Like one, she's perfect in the same family because they have different fathers, but we treat them both like they're part of our family. So one is half Puerto Rican. She's got this massive, beautiful black hair, big brown eyes, the other one's completely white. And so let's say they go to school together, and are they supposed to be, like when they separate them, or for this critical race theory is like, the white one's supposed to be over here because she's they're sisters, they're sisters. They don't see any difference between each other. But now suddenly you're trying to separate, it's pretty like wacko when you think about it.
It definitely gets pretty muddy.
Really? Yeah.
No. No, I mean, it's insane. It's insane. I probably shouldn't say this now, but I'm going to, because I've been drinking enough. I think that white students and brown students, black and brown students and Asian students all learn differently. But that doesn't mean they don't need to go to school together. It just means that maybe, it's like, hey, you're good at this particular way of learning. Like, and it's not always racial, but let's be honest, sometimes it is. If they it doesn't matter what your race is. If you're good at this particular way of learning, we should put you in that type of way of learning. I think that seems more fair than being like, oh, now it's time for the white kids to go away and learn that they're the devil, and all the black kids to learn that they were Kangs in Africa.
Yeah, either way, you're either a victim or you're a victimizer, and that's what they're teaching. So
That's
they're
ridiculous.
teaching. Yeah, but I mean, I have one son. All my kids are different. Like, he did not fit. But see, I don't like the school system at all. I hate it. I mean, it's like 2,000. You put 2,000 kids in a prison behind barbed wire, with drug.
That's to keep out school shooters.
Exactly,
all of that prison shit is to keep out school shooters.
So I think they should take this opportunity. People should just start going back, like communities start, doing it in their little communities, and not even go back to these ridiculous schools.
Well, because I don't have any children, and there's a million reasons why I shouldn't, but I'm a crazy person, but I just think the kids learn differently, and there are racial things that kids do learn differently along racial lines, but you're not going to figure that out by hairstyle. You're not going to figure that out by what their hair looks like. Yeah, there's a lot of trends with that, but I don't know. Am I crazy? Like that?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea if people, because of their, I don't know that that's true. I mean, I would think that, I do think, poverty and all that has a lot to do with it. I mean, the way, also the way the school system is set up. My son, I have a white son, and he had so many problems because he did not learn the way he was supposed to learn. Right. Outcast, and I mean, very creative, free thinking, person, and
but there's still
suffered.
There's still a way to teach him. There's still a way to teach him. We need to be splitting kids up.
Yeah, and
that.
Yeah, definitely. Kids should. It shouldn't be that important to, that they fit into a certain mold. Who cares anyway? We don't remember the vast majority of what we learned. You need to learn math. You need to learn English. You need to learn how to read. You need to learn how to, do some basic math. There are certain basic things that you need, and most people, and you need to learn some critical thinking, and learn how to, all these kind of things. But
I'll let you know that R. Kelly doesn't know how to read, and he has gone to prison for pedophilia. So yeah, maybe people should, go to. But what about Floyd Mayweather? Huh? He didn't know how to read, and he beat his wife a bunch. He did beat the shit out of people, but now he does it for a living. Okay, so maybe 1 out of 200 billion gets to be Floyd Mayweather. But no, I think that there's different ways that kids should learn, and we should find those things out. And because I'm a dumb creative type of guy. All right, I'm not like some type of Asian math guy. There are kids that are that. A lot of them are Asian, not always, but most of them are, and they're great for doing that's what they can do. But they also should learn how to do other things. I don't think kids need to learn to do creative stuff. I have just been doing creative stuff my entire life. My family hated it. Now I'm going to be 34 next month, and they're like, we accepted that about 12 years ago when he just would not stop doing it. So,
When you start scribbling on the walls of your house when you were 8, they knew that great things would come of it.
No,
eventually.
I actually I asked my mom about that. I legitimately didn't do that. I've always been a rule follower. I love rules. I do. You know that, Matt.
I think people with
I know you enjoy the rule of doing this podcast at the exact same time.
I get mad at you if we are even a little late. I believe in rules and
you
structure.
once flipped out at me for thinking that it was at a different time.
Yes. Yeah. I like rules and structure.
Because if he didn't have the rules and the structure, he would just go like this.
Yep. Because I've got creative things to do outside of, the rules. You got to tell me the rules. Tell me the rules. I'm going to pay Karen $20
I'm
a
listening.
week. I'm going to pay Karen $20 a week to be my therapist. That's what I'm going to do. This is what we found from this podcast.
Well, we can just start. Let's start one where we do a therapy sessions.
I mean, you're going to be as good as any therapist.
Exactly. I mean,
I'll just give you. Well, I have now decided. I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it again. It is $10 now. $10 a week for an hour.
Wait a minute.
Well,
wow. I really have a lot to think about tonight.
It's now free. I will email you every day.
Oh no! Now I'm gonna start being harassed.
Wait
by
till
this
I follow
crazy
you
person.
on Twitter.
Oh no! Oh no! Yeah, I'm gonna really get banned. I'm already having trouble as it is.
Do you know who said the N-word? The author of today's book.
Great, thanks a lot. Don't worry, I've had plenty of people tell plenty of stories about me. It's not the first time. Just be glad we're not all in the studio together. All right.
Yeah, because then we'd be in LA or Mexico.
Because we might have a boxing match. That would be entertaining.
No, I don't want to get beat up.
Hey, I have Switzerland in this.
Oh, it's weird, Switzerland.
No, you're Mexico. Fuck off, dust man.
No, he's a rudderless ship. Wherever he lands, that's where he is. Because when I first met you, you were in Bulgaria. Then you were in. I thought maybe you were a secret agent or something. That's what I thought because.
Oh God!
I
wish.
Instead of secret squirrel, he's.
I wanted to make it far more interesting than what it is because.
I was actually in Bosnia. I've actually never been.
Oh no, that's right. You were in Bosnia. Why did I say you were? Wait a minute. I was sure it was Bulgaria. He's lying. He's lying right now. He doesn't want people to know the truth. He was really in Bulgaria.
This is actually verifiable. Americans were not allowed to enter when I was there. So I was in Bosnia because I was allowed to go there.
You know, when you're in Bosnia,
I've never been to Bosnia.
You're in Bosnia because you thought it was Bosnia, and you thought it would be a good place for you to fuck men. Like.
How did that work out for you?
Matt, how did it work out for you?
I left for Mexico. Sarajevo's nice. It's kind of depopulated because of the war. There's a lot of there's a lot. It's not a very happy place, but the people there are nice. The food is better than in Serbia, and the only thing I really can't stand is the cell phone service, which is ridiculously bad. But they do make great burgers, though. They've mastered the American burger recipe.
When you're in Serbia, were you really like, oh, serve me up a big piece of boy penis? Is that why you were there? Okay.
I don't think he would have lived very long, right?
I was in Serbia before.
No, don't worry, he won't. Don't worry. With his BMI, he won't live very long. I'm just trying to live this podcast out, and then actually I'll take over a Terry house. Run it to the ground.
This is a big plot.
Oh, it is. It's such a big plot. Big. like
okay,
Matt,
never mind.
Because he's fat and bald.
Actually, I was in Serbia because I had been planning to go to Belarus to meet a friend of mine, and also because it was the one country in Europe that was not doing all this nonsense
against gay rights. Matt, I was thinking of like I was thinking of waxing my car. What do you use on your head?
It's like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Anderson.
Matt is God.
Okay,
Matt is Jean-Claude Van Damme. You're fat.
No, because he is really a secret agent. Oh my goodness, I'm running out of batteries. No, so you're really Matt Johnson, secret agent.
Yeah, I actually, if I had a nickname too, I'd call myself Bryden Beer because that's what I love to put in my mouth.
Since you said your battery's running out, we should probably wind the show down. Well, there's a couple of reasons to do so now because it's 2 hours and nobody's going to listen past 2 hours. And number two, I actually have to go to work.
Oh,
so
wow. How
I don't want to cut it off.
Sorry for bringing me back to reality.
Yeah. He likes to. He's got a dumpster he has to go live in for a little while and go out and snatch children.
But it's been great. But I think it's a good place to wind it down.
Yeah.
Karen, is there anything else you want to bring up? Well, there's obviously. Let me pull this back up on screen. Luminaria, go buy it when it's out.
Buy the book and follow me on Substack or Twitter. Twitter, Karen Elaine Hunt. Substack is khmezek.substack.com.
Wait, you said your name wrong.
Mezek. No, he said my name wrong. I said it right.
I would hope she gets it right. You're drunk, Bryden. You're drunk.
Listen, I'm always drunk. I'm calling you KHM. And that's it.
Okay, that's good. I'll take that. KHM, that's kind of cool. Well, you see, I couldn't be... Okay, I'll leave this with you, all right? My name's Karen Hunt, but I couldn't be K Hunt, right? Do you know why? Okay? So I'll just leave that there with you, okay?
Now that
was without a beer, okay?
Oh, no! I can't imagine... That's on par with Donald Glover going like, my name is Don Glover. Don Glover. Like, yeah, no, you can't be K Hunt.
There's just so many things that went wrong.
That's like when Roger Stone formed a PAC called Citizens United Not Timid against Hillary Clinton.
That's terrible.
Jesus. But at least that was on purpose. Roger Stone was so close to going to jail, and then he didn't, and then now he's just still going around going like, ha! Like, it's like, seriously, I mean, like, he is a Mario star, dude. It doesn't matter what happens. He just implicates other people constantly, and he never gets caught. Roger Stone rules. He hangs out with black rappers now all the time. It's fucking retarded. We could get him on this show eventually. He's starting to sink real low.
Oh my goodness. Don't ever invite me back.
I don't know. You're the best guest we've had. Honestly, I know the other guys.
And I'm not sure if that's like a very high compliment, but
what?
It is from him, trust me.
I usually hate the guests. I usually hate the guests. They're not fun at all. They're all like, I read a book one time. I'm like, yeah, it's gay.
I published 19 children's books. I've had 19 children's books published.
I don't know. I think I could write a children's book.
Okay.
I'd be like, look, here's a butterfly.
Sure. What would be your audience? I'm a little scared to think.
It would be children. It would be children. I mean, like, here's a children's book that I wrote. It's like, this is the butterfly that raises his right wing.
Right wing. Wow.
No, you're incredible.
Okay.
You're incredible.
All right, guys.
But yes,
very cool.
But yeah, go check out Karen's Substack. Her website is also in the link page. Mezek. Mezek.
Let her do it.
Okay.
Let her do it. You don't have to do it.
Okay.
Karen, where can we find you? Where can we find you? Because
.com.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Karen Alaine, Alaine Hunt. That's my Twitter. And you can find me on Substack at khmezek.substack.com, or you can just look up Break Free with Karen Hunt, and you'll find me. Or you can just Google KH Mezek, you'll find me. That's
That's the way to do it. I'm going to be promoting this like nobody's fucking business because she is fucking awesome. I am going to, once you record an audio version of this book, I'm going to read this book.
Cool. I'll hold you to it, and then I'm gonna ask you questions.
Or you could just have me do it because I've got a great voice. It'd be like,
we would have to limit your beer intake.
oh no, you wouldn't even know. LUMINARIA.
Actually, it would get better.
No. Hold on. Tell me if this isn't good. LUMINARIA, Tales of Earth and Orin, Love and Revenge, by KH Mezek.
Hey, that was pretty good.
I know. I want to do one of these. I'll do it. I think it'd be pretty good. Well, I think I got a great voice.
Yeah. Well, okay. It's something to be considered. All right. Something to be considered.
You're going to be my therapist. So, but yeah, you can find me at World's Only Comic on Twitter, BrydenProctor.com. Trovo.live/Bryden. You can go over to DLive, but I really don't stream over there that much anymore. But help me out on the Twitter, man. World's Only Comic. And if you're in the Orlando area, maybe you can see me at a mic. Let me know if you're interested in seeing that. And then I won't go to that place that I don't know. But all right, Matt, close us out, Matt.
And you can check my website is mattforney.com. All my stuff's in the description. And that'll do it for this episode of Terror House Radio. Be sure to check in every day at Terror House Magazine, terrorhousemagazine.com terrorhousemag.com for our latest publications. Books, terrorhousepress.com, Luminaria coming September 3rd. Social media links in the description. And you can also check out always find the new episodes of the show at terrorhouseradio.com. Terror House Radio is produced by Bryden Proctor and presented by Katya Degg. Intro music by Zero Pulse, Illegitimate Non-Coperundum, Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down. I'm Matt Forney with Bryden Proctor and KH
Mezek.
Yes. I got it right.
Yeah.
And we are